If you had the opportunity to breathe new life into something you hold near and dear to your heart, at the risk of tarnishing your rose-tinted glasses, would you take that plunge? What if you could expand upon it and create a successor that hopes to improve upon a formula that is tried and true? Many have attempted this in the past, and to varying degrees of success, even those that parented the very thing that inspired their work. But sometimes, the prospect of creating that new obsession outweighs the uncertainties of its success. Well, my dear backloggers, this time around on the Backlog Odyssey, I take a look at the game that puts 200.6% into everything it does and stains your vanias red, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So oil up your whip and pay no mind to that group of bloodthirsty vampires, because it's time for another backlog review. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is a side-scrolling action platformer developed by Artplay and released in 2019 for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and PC. When your gaze rests upon Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, I'm sure the first thing that comes to mind is Castlevania, and more specifically, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Well, that's not entirely unfounded, because in many ways, Bloodstained can be considered a spiritual successor to those games. However, it all started when Koji Igarashi, known famously for sticking his fingers in the proverbial Castlevania pie, left Konami. That guy was basically elbow deep in the stuff, playing roles such as programmer, scenario writer, director, producer, you name it. Seriously, if you played a Castlevania after 1993, you could taste the sweaty knuckle hairs of this whip-cracking wizard. Tangent aside, after leaving Konami, Iga decided he would follow suit with the likes of Keiji Inafune of Mega Man fame and attempt to revitalize his digital namesake in the form of a Kickstarter campaign to raise the funds to create a new Vania that wasn't a Vania but still felt like a Vania. And after close to 5 years, we are finally graced with what all of us Castlevania fans could only have dreamed of, a new Igavania, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Well, technically its prequel, Curse of the Moon, came a year or so before it, but we can talk about that another time. It was more of a classic Castlevania than your typical Metroidvania anyways. In Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, you play as Miriam, an orphan shardbinder who has the ability to absorb and utilize the crystallized souls of demons. After waking from a decade-long coma-like slumber, Miriam discovers that her old friend and fellow shardbinder Jeeble has summoned the demonic and shape-shifting castle Hellhold, in hopes of seeking revenge on the Guild of Alchemists that cursed them with their undue abilities. Now it's up to Miriam to find Jeeble and stop him, either before her affliction completely petrifies her, or before he takes his vengeance too far. When playing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, it's tough not to compare it to the games that came before it. Games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night pretty much set the standard for what to look for in a Metroidvania. I mean, the term was coined for that game. With it being a spiritual successor, that makes a lot of sense. But that also means that it needed to include all of the things that made those games great, which is a lot to live up to. It needs to include non-linear, exploration-focused gameplay. It needs to include a wide variety of weapons and armor to collect, and it needs to teach you abilities that can be used to traverse previously unreachable areas. Oh, and it absolutely needs platforming action that'll make you bite your bottom lip. Here's the thing. Regardless of how skeptical I may have been before I played it, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night lived up to all of my expectations. In fact, I would even say that in many ways, not all, it exceeded those expectations. It expanded upon the systems that made me fall in love with Symphony of the Night by making them more modern. Now, instead of just finding new items and equipment, you could craft them. Or you could even cook food to increase your stats permanently. And although I may have been hesitant about the crystal absorbing mechanic that was very similar to what was found in Aria of Sorrow or Dawn of Sorrow, it grew on me. I was worried that it would be a bit tedious, but after coming to terms with the whole gotta catch 'em all mentality of collecting each and every demon soul, I was pretty much hooked. Honestly, the only area where Bloodstained truly floundered was its visuals. They didn't seem to have the same impact as the intensely gothic Castlevania series. But it could just be that I'm a sucker for the classic 2D style and the beautifully grotesque aesthetics that the franchise is known for. That's not to say the art direction in Bloodstained is bad. To its credit, it's amazing. I love how colorful and interesting the world and characters are, but the polygonal graphics just kind of cheapened it for me. Luckily, the talented dev team over at Artplay really knew how to dial in those animations and controls, because despite it not being more traditionally 2D, the action and animations flowed smoothly and without a hitch. And all those criticisms are soon forgotten when you hear the soundtrack, because it would be impossible not to love it. It brings memories of slaying zombies and fighting Dracula, and wears its eerie inspirations on its sleeve in the best of ways. That, and I don't think it left my playlist since I finished the game. If you're looking for a good way to sink hours into a well-crafted experience, then I can't recommend you check out Bloodstained Ritual of the Night enough. Even if you have never played a Castlevania in your life, you honestly can't go wrong with this game, especially if you love action platformers. It has depth, intrigue, and buttery smooth action that'll keep you entertained from beginning to end. And if you're a completionist like me, with a soft spot for farming, there's plenty of that in there too. Just be sure to wear those bunny ears for good luck.